Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons, where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And another shout out to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister and get 10% off all your purchases. With that out of the way, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking our Playing with Villains series. We're going to talk about Freddy Krueger. For those of you who do not know, Freddy Krueger is the main villain in the Nightmare on Elm Street saga. He is also in Freddy vs. Jason. He is in Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. He is in Mortal Kombat. He's horribly burned. You know him most from that bladed glove that he wears. He is a wonderfully horrible person. There's a lot of evil things beyond just his normal actions. It's his creation. It's why he did those things. He is so in depth, and there's so much to him. So let's jump right into a little bit of Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger is a little bit hard to define as an entity, because he's not like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, that he's just existing in the world in some strange, bizarre form. Freddy Krueger exists as a nightmare. He gets destroyed and is burned alive by the parents of his victims. He's a horrible person. There's a lot of things about his origin story that I can't really say, otherwise it restricts the amount of viewers that can see this video, and I'm not trying to do that, but there is so much lore behind it. It's amazing. Definitely dive into it. But what I can say is he is punished by the people, the parents of the victims he had, and they destroy him. And he makes his vow to get their children the only place that the parents cannot protect them, and that's in their dreams. So the basis behind Freddy Krueger is that if he creates enough fear, he grows in strength and power. The main idea behind the Nightmare on Elm Street movies is the parents block out any information about Freddy Krueger. They redact all that information. They keep it under wraps so nobody even hears his name. And slowly but surely, he starts to frighten his victims in the movie and grow a small amount of fear to all of them. And this kind of creates this mass panic between them, which actually fuels him and gives Freddy the ability to grow stronger and then to finally actually start murdering them. And then once those murders start to happen, it starts to snowball and his power becomes very realistic and he can really affect things in the real world. But he exists in this dreamscape. And that's where his power comes from. So you get this wonderful basis for a character that loves to invoke fear. And because of where he lives, Freddy uses a lot of illusionary magic to cause these nightmares, infecting dreams and giving hints about who he is. Because if they start to dig up information about him, and then he starts to hear all the killings that have happened throughout the time because of him, now it starts to grow paranoia and fear and constant thought about him, or animosity towards their parents because they know their parents are involved somehow, and that maybe their parents caused this cover-up because they murdered someone. So it creates this great misdirect where it causes all this negative emotions to build up. So when they finally sleep, all the negative emotions get released, and Freddy's able to manipulate that to grow the fear to bring back his strength. It's a very wonderful magically induced concept because there's a lot of things you can pull from that. One of the biggest spells in D&D we're going to talk about, and how greatly Freddy makes use of the spell constantly. Dream. This spell shapes a creature's dream. Choose a creature known to you as the target of the spell. The target must be on the same plane of existence as you. Creatures that don't sleep, such as elves, can't be contacted by the spell. You or a willing creature you touch enters a trance state, acting as a messenger. While in the trance, the messenger is aware of the surroundings, but can't take actions or move. If the target is asleep, the messenger appears in the target's dream and can converse with the target as long as it remains asleep through the duration of the spell. The messenger can also shape the environment of the dream, creating landscapes, objects, and other images. The messenger can emerge from the trance at any time, ending the effect of the spell early. The target recalls the dream perfectly upon waking. If the target is awake when you cast the spell, the messenger knows it, and can either end the trance and the spell, or wait for the target to fall asleep, at which point the messenger appears in the target's dream. You can make the messenger appear monstrous and terrifying to the target. If you do, the messenger can deliver a message of no more than 10 words, and then the target must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, echoes of phantasmal monstrosity spawn a nightmare that lasts for the duration of the target's sleep, and prevents the target from gaining any benefit from that rest. In addition, when the target wakes up, it takes 3d6 psychic damage. If you have a body part, lock of hair, clipping from a nail, or similar portion of the target's body, the target makes a saving throw with a disadvantage. So the dream spell. This is Freddy Krueger's bread and butter ability. It really sums up everything he does. He constantly causes this 8-hour nightmare for all those that he's trying to infect in order to grow the fear of him. The great caveat of this is that you do not gain the benefit of a long rest. So if you happen to, say, steal the nail off of a king's finger in D&D and keep it, and then cast this spell using that, you can kill the king in 5 days and be miles away. All you have to do is cast the spell every night. Because if they get 5 levels of exhaustion, they die. It's one of the ways the mechanics in D&D work, and this happens to cause that. On top of all the disabling abilities that come with exhaustion as the levels of exhaustion increase, this in a long-term campaign is a devastating ability. This is a powerful spell. It is a 5th level spell. It is available to wizards, warlocks, and bards. The great thing is the ability to shape the dream and cause the nightmare to happen. And the fact that they remember the nightmare perfectly. That's one of the things that Freddy does in the movies. He causes these nightmares, and he does them in such a way that all of the victims see it, remember it, and wake up and know that it's tangible. It feels so real. It's so scary because it's so real, and the more fear that they have of it, the stronger his powers get. So he's able to create worse and worse nightmares till he's able to actually kill them in their sleep. And that's really his end goal. So that's like Dream being cast every day and somebody failing that death save. That is so perfectly constructed that a creative player can really dive into that and really make horrific nightmares for these people, these characters, and they just have to get close enough to them once to do it. One of the important things I want to talk about in regards to Freddy Krueger is the fact that how he gets defeated. You can fight him in the dream world, and a lot of times people really do. Ultimately, that is where his power is supreme. He doesn't need to be in the material world. Like, it's funny considering the way planes exist in D&D and the way dreams exist and how to like kind of figure that out. But dreams aren't a multiverse kind of experience. Dreams exist, and they exist in the mind of the person, so it happens in the material plane because the person is in the material plane. It is a great little kind of interesting fact to kind of just dance around with, that there's this mysterious, almost non-tangible entity deliberately destroying the lives in this one area. And it's fun. It can make a great villain for a campaign that's heavy on exploration, and it's a very cool way to transverse things. But as a tangible, actual aspect, one of the things that's important to note, and I think really defines how Freddy Krueger can be in the real world of D&D and a very actual kind of character, is that he always gets pulled from the dream into reality. And the way they do that is they have some character, usually the main character, grabs a hold of him and then is forcibly awoken. And when usually it's a woman, when she usually awakes, she has him in his hands, and then he's in the real world. And then he becomes beatable because they can fight back, because they're not fighting an ethereal entity of their own mind. They're not fighting a fear entity. There's a tangible person there. And that levels the playing field, kind of. So it kind of sets up this great, like, setup of what kind of a character Freddy Krueger is. There's a lot of illusion. There's a lot of fear. You gotta love that fear. And then there's this great weakness of physicality that really exists. And I think that's a very cool concept, because you don't have to be this huge bulking monster. You're not Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, who's going to get exploded and then come back, because you're almost frail. You do have a weapon. You do have a claw. It's basically a glove with just multiple knives attached to them, to all the fingers. It's cool. It's thematic looking, but that's it. And you have to get pretty close to use it. And he is very good with using it, but ultimately, he's almost human when he comes into the material world, when he gets pulled out of the dream. One other thing to note that's very, very important and intrinsic to Freddy Krueger is the level of smack talk he has. No one is funnier, no villain talks more, no villain makes more fun out of the heroes than Freddy Krueger, and he is fantastic of it. He makes it a sport. He excels at being humorous and saying these great little quips from time to time, and it's a joy to watch if you love horror, as I do, and I imagine a whole bunch of you do. It is just a joy to watch. So what best reflects that? Vicious mockery. And I think that's a great thing to add on to your character, because not only does it humorously derogatory hurt the opponents that you cast it on, but it sets up a benefit where they have a frailty. They have a weakness at attacking you for it. And considering you're being pulled out of the dream world where you're all powerful and now into the material world where it's a level playing field, being that kind of a character, anything that's going to put you ahead of them is something you're willing to do. And mind games still fall in that perfect category. So, yeah, you're going to need that sweet, sweet vicious mockery. So how do you turn Freddy Krueger into a playable D&D character? First and foremost, if you're playing a heavy roleplay political intrigue campaign, this is really kind of going to grow a very powerful and influential character. Simply because you'll have time to use things like Dream and really develop that. Some really great classes that I do want to say that do have abilities that really, really work inside is the Archfey Warlock, because of Dark Delirium. Dark Delirium is a fantastic spell for taking someone out of combat. It's really not a spell, it's an ability you gain from the Pack of the Archfey. It's high level, a lot of times you don't ever get to see it, but it kind of plunges someone into the dream world. That's the thing that really kind of switched me off from it. It's a great ability, it does kind of work pretty well, and Dream is on the Warlock spell list, but ultimately, Freddy never forces anybody into the dream world. And you really don't see that being a tangible thing that happens in the movies. But you can make that happen in D&D. So if you wanted to go Archfey Warlock, absolutely, it kind of fits in really, really well. I really danced around Conquest Paladin a lot, or at least multi-class into it, because of the great benefit that fear has for you. Particularly if you get up to higher levels where you have that aura of hate, where people lose the ability to move away from you, which is cool. I like the one where if people are feared, they take psychic damage from being around you. I think that's pretty cool, but I think that's more of a Michael Myers kind of thing, because if you envision someone hiding in a closet and that terror that they're feeling as he's walking by, like something like that is more imposing, and it's a great thing, and have that fear like really crippling somebody. That's great. That's exciting, but that's really not who Freddy Krueger is. I do believe one of the best opportunities to be Freddy Krueger is through the Bard. Because it does coincide a lot of the things about him. You get the frailty because you're not a bruiser, you're not a fighter, ranger, barbarian, paladin. You don't have that super AC, that super armor. So you're not that beneficial in melee, which I think works pretty well with who Freddy Krueger is. And you do get Dream, and you do get Vicious Mockery. I think the Valor Bard really clinches it. And it's really because of the Valor Bard's level 14 ability where they can make a melee attack and then cast a spell. You make that melee attack and you drop that sweet Vicious Mockery. And now you have Freddy Krueger tangibly being his best self. On top of that, you have Phantasmal Killer, Phantasmal Force. You have a lot of illusions. You have fear. You have a lot of ways of, from Jump Street at level 1, causing things to create fear around you that makes you more powerful, because it'll be harder for you enemies to hit, and it'll be harder for enemies to go towards you. You'll be able to keep them at bay. You'll be able to do whatever you want. You'll be able to Vicious Mockery. You'll be able to do so many things that debilitate the enemy and make them seem weak and make you feel powerful. And that's the great thing about Freddy Krueger. The more he fears and causes people to fear him, the more bold he gets, the more excited and the more intense everything he does gets. And you can tangibly feel that as you succeed in these spells in combat. And you can constantly do that with this confidence and this very well set up idea of you're there to cause pain, and you're there to cause pain and suffering through fear. And the Bard gives you this great ability to do that. I also consider Whisper's Bard because of the way all the things work and how close Freddy Krueger actually gets to his enemies, because he constantly talks to them and he learns so much about them through their dreams. There's this certain level of just being able to communicate with these people and then learn how to frighten them and learn what scares them the most. And I thought that was really, really great. And the psychic blades do tangibly work, but there is nothing in there to give you a reason to use Vicious Mockery or this great watch from the shadows and laugh as they suffer kind of mentality. With Whisper's Bard, there's this incredible sense of bravery and risk where you're always like right there. Like, you have to be alone with the enemy. You have to be talking to them. You have to be able to hit them with a weapon. You have to either be super close with a melee or super distant. And you have to be able to be the main focus of these terrible enemies as a Whisper's Bard, because everything kind of revolves around you. You're putting yourself at great risk as a Whisper's Bard the whole time. Doesn't really fit. I think Valor Bard is the way to go. It makes you a little beefy in combat. It gives you a reason to attack in combat, which Freddy has with his incredibly thematic claw weapon. And everything you have is there. Like, don't get me wrong, the way the Bardic Inspiration die works with the Valor Bard isn't as great as it does with the Swords Bard, but you get the ability to attack, cantrip, you get the ability to attack multiple times, so you can keep up in melee if you have to. And the Bard leans so well to being a heavy disabler. And you can use illusions. All you have to do is just channel in that deep, deep, deep understanding that Freddy is the most powerful in dreams. And now your world is becoming a dream. All being said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you've enjoyed the content so far. And thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. What you guys do for the channel is amazing. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, definitely check us out. The link is in the description. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Again, that promo code is Sinister. If you need any ttrpg accessories, it has a lot of great stuff. Definitely check it out. And if you're going to buy from them multiple times, keep pumping in that code, because it's renewable and constantly usable, so you can always have 10% off year round, guys. And just If you've enjoyed this series, this is something we've been trying for a little while now. Definitely leave a comment. Tell us about how the builds are that you think of when you think of this kind of character, what you would do. Multi-classing, how would you pull it together? We would love to hear about it. We would love to read it in the comments. Thank you so much again for all of you guys supporting the channel. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.